Good evening and welcome to the Norwood Trails Advisory Committee meeting of Tuesday, February 11th, 2020, if you can believe that. We're here at Norwood Town Hall. We have a plethora of empty chairs. Invited guests or uninvited guests are always welcome. We do have an esteemed guest this evening. We're going to take a roll call and we'll introduce Steve, but we'll let him do that. Marguerite, could you?
Yeah, Marguerite Krupp.
Vic Babel.
Ellie McConaughey.
Fran Rush.
Steve Washburn.
Craig Austin.
And I'm Joe Greeley. We do have a couple of members that are going to be joining us shortly. We'll put them on the hot seat and force them to introduce themselves when they land. Okay, we're rocking and rolling on the agenda. Steve, you want to... Let's put you on the hot seat here. Thank you for coming.
I'm happy to be here.
Fran forced you to sit at the big table.
Hey, I'm here to listen.
Okay. Anything you want to before we start, anything you want to get out of this meeting or contribute to this meeting that we want to focus on?
I really am just here to absorb. For those who don't know, I'm the chairperson of the Norwood Conservation Commission. And I'm very interested in that trails and seeing them further develop. So, again, really just here to listen.
Okay, great.
You can talk too, though.
I have a voice, and I'm happy to contribute, but
Yeah.
really here to absorb.
Great. We do have a shared partnership with the Conservation Commission. Thank you for coming. I should have started.
Yeah.
But roughly half of the trails that we call trails or future trails are actually managed and coordinated by the Conservation Commission. So, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Always welcome.
You want to be a member, did you say?
I think he's sitting at the big table. That answers that. Lee will come with a comment on the meeting minutes. We're going to circle back to that. Visitors and updates. We just introduced our visitor. As I mentioned, we have a number of available seats, and feedback and visitors are always welcome. Anyone want to talk about, I'll ask Vic, maybe you can start us off with the sustainability series last week?
Well, we had SRO again, as usual. I thought it went very well.
And tell us what it was, what it entailed.
Well, with the sustainability series, every month, Together Years, along with Progress Norwood, has an event at the library. You know, something to do with the environment and the sustainability. And we were lucky, this is the second time they've chosen the Trails Committee to give a presentation there. And both times, full house.
Good.
And it was I thought it was a very good meeting. And most of the people talking to them after thought it was very good also. Hopefully next year we'll do another one with more progress being done.
Great.
And it was good to be able to show people the progress that we've had in a year, even though when you're in the forest, you don't think you're accomplishing too much, but we actually are. So it was a great opportunity for the Trails Committee, and I'm glad we did it.
Great. Thanks. Marguerite and Ellie, you were there as well, Marguerite?
Yeah, I thought it went over well. It was not just the people listening to the program, but the enthusiasm after the program, when people kept coming up and saying, hey, how about this, and how do I get there, and I want to help, and all of that just coming from the general populace, didn't get so many questions this year
Yeah, that
about
surprised me, yeah.
where are the trails, do they exist? In other words, they were more tuned into it, and your presentation gave a pretty good indication of where the trails were. And people were coming up to look at the maps and stuff like that. So overall, I'd say it was a very successful presentation, and a lot of enthusiasm and energy came out of it.
And we had the opportunity of doing it with the Walpole Trails Committee, who has been in business a heck of a lot longer than us. And they were very good. They gave a great talk, and one thing that I think that I heard from the audience was if we could have put on each chair a map, because, you know, you couldn't see the map from sitting down there, it was too crowded. And when I used to do seminars at my store, we always put something on each seat when they came in. So that was the only criticism I heard, but that wasn't really criticism, it's just how to do a better seminar. And, but the enthusiasm was certainly there.
A lot of people got maps ahead of time. I sort of
Yeah, we
slid
should've
in, and the guy next to me had a
Well, that's
handful
what
of
I'm
maps.
saying, we should have just put them on the chairs.
Yeah.
Rather than kept them off the side and they came, because some had them, and I guess the people that didn't have them felt like, hey,
Well, how come I
how
didn't get
come
one?
I didn't get a map? Because they didn't know that to go up on the table. But that would be the only criticism I had. I think the length was about right.
Yeah.
And it was good having different speakers talk, so I think it flowed nicely and a lot of, like I said, a lot of enthusiasm was there.
I think including Glenn Murphy's presentation helped a lot too.
And
because
he was very good.
He was very good, and he showed, you know, his presentation flowed right into yours,
Yes,
and it worked very nicely together.
yeah. And they're a great partnership, our committee and their committee, and hopefully we'll be doing future things together. And matter of fact, they were saying, the audience was saying, we need to do this at the Walpole Public Library. And I think half the people there were from Walpole. A
Yeah,
lot of
quite a
hands
few
were
were.
raised.
Yeah.
You think? Yeah. I see a shaking of the head there, but I thought it would surprise me how many people from Walpole were there. So I think they want us to get involved in doing the same thing in Walpole, so it's nice to know. I mean, so now, you know, people know some of the trails in Walpole and how to find them and what websites to go on, and so that's really good because there's great trails in Walpole, and there's really good trails in Norwood too.
Good, thanks. Kelly, any
I
comments?
loved the feeling of community and connection. It felt so collaborative, not competitive.
Right.
Like we were all in this together, people were supporting each other, encouraging each other. I really liked that feel. I think that came through from the presenters, and you guys did a great job. And for the people in the audience.
Okay, great. Lee, any thoughts about our series?
I thought it was very well received, like you said, by both people who from Walpole and from Norwood. I don't know if you mentioned it or not, but several of the Walpole people walked down.
Two of them,
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
3.5 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not nearly
yeah,
one.
that's right.
So-
They didn't walk back though.
No.
They got a ride home. I
But
saw
that
them.
was.
And it was in the rain also.
That's
But I thought
But it was nice that they
it wasn't
did that.
that much rain, but
Yeah.
it was impressive. I
Yeah.
thought
It
to
was
hear from
good.
those people.
We appreciate the invitation from Progress Norwood, Together Yes, and the Morrill Memorial Library.
Yeah, great.
Put that on
Yeah.
every month,
Standing room only.
standing room only.
Thousands outside.
It was taped, thank you for Norwood Community Media, it was taped, and actually Jack Tolman has, excuse me, has shared the tape with the Walpole Public Access.
Oh, good.
So they'll be showing that on Walpole Public Access as well, so. Good, and Steve, were you, I can't remember.
No, I
You-
was not.
Okay, okay.
Wait, is that something that will the recording, is that be available like online, like via YouTube or anything like that, or strictly when broadcast on?
You can search it and stream it anytime
Sweet,
Okay.
okay, you're right on the,
on the NCM
Okay.
website.
Yep.
Yep, just call it up, and I don't know if it's you'd find it Trails of Two Cities or Sustainability Series or.
what a wonderful
I
name.
know, isn't that great?
Oh, my
Very clever.
goodness, I'm a huge fan of catchy presentation
Yeah.
names.
So that went really well, and appreciate everybody showing up. We had at least half of the committee there, so that was really good representation.
And there were several other Walpole committee members there as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Too, so.
yep.
That was good.
Let's see, most of our discussion tonight is the calendar, basically, future events. Anybody else want to talk about, Craig, you brought back something from?
If you want me to.
Sure, if you could.
Last Thursday, I believe it was, I attended the Neponset River Watershed Association's presentation on the water quality of the Neponset River and its tributaries. So the Neponset River Watershed Association, or NEPRA, has been sampling the river and tributaries in its watershed for over 24 years in a program they call SWMN, Citizens Water Monitoring Network. And I've been a part of it for at least 22 of those years. Not always sampling in Norwood, but that I'm sampling in Norwood now. And last week, they were presenting the results for 2019 and comparing it to a 10-year average. They sample for several things, including E. coli, which is a indirect measure of sewage, but that's what they use. Phosphorus, dissolved oxygen. I also take the temperature of the water at my site every time and note things, maybe something unusual about the water, if it's a different color than it usually is.
Where do you take the sample?
I take my sample just downstream of the Ellis Pond Dam. Yeah, up off of, Route 1A.
Yeah.
And I've been there for, almost 10 years now. And there are other sites along Hawes Brook. Meadowbrook gets sampled. A couple of sites along the Neponset River. I think there's one at Germany Brook. And I never get them straight. I think it's Purgatory Brook. And Treple Brook, so all around town. Their presentation results are on their website at Neponset.org, I believe. But you can certainly do a search on the Neponset River Watershed Association. I don't exactly know where on their site, but there's a copy of their results there. Results, I'll just briefly say they're mixed as far as E. coli. And that's kind of a surprise to them. I'm sure they'll be thrilled that if people ask questions, they can contact them, and they'd be thrilled to talk about the results.
I mean, with all this relining of the pipes in Norwood, you'd think
Yep.
it would be improving.
I
mean,
think
they're
they were
constantly-
betting on it too, so,
It's
I
a
know my
surprise then.
neighborhood, they did a lot of it in September. So that's toward the tail end, their season is from March to October. They don't sample during the winter, but, so hopefully maybe next spring, that we'll see some differences.
Yeah.
Craig, are there results for the whole watershed when you say the E. coli is up?
It differs according to the sites, but generally, one interesting trend they saw was that they grade, I don't want to get into too much detail,
Yeah.
but they grade the site results according to outstanding, good, moderate, and poor.
Or, yeah.
And what they've been finding is that over the 10 years, the outstanding and good sites, or the number of outstanding and good sites has dropped, and the amount of moderate and poor have risen. So it's not a good trend.
No.
But
Sure.
they didn't get into details. There is a
What the
graph at
influences
each
are.
site that shows how each site did, and generally, you know, they didn't give quantities, but in Norwood's, more for E. coli, most of the sites are either no change or declining slightly, or declining. So, again, I don't think there's anything, well, I'll let NEPRA, say, what their story is on that. I'm certainly not really qualified to try to put an opinion on it.
Okay, good. But it's out and it's posted on their website, and-
Yep.
and they come out every year, so this would be the 2019 results?
Well, they try to do it every year, yes.
Okay, yeah.
But yes, they do sample every year, and eventually the reports do come out, and they try to do it every year.
Okay, all right.
So, for the benefit of our TV audience, never get a chance to say that, but for the benefit of our TV audience, the website is neponset.org,
Yep.
and there is a section in this report that talks about the person to contact if you want to volunteer.
There we go.
And it is, not that big, DiStefano, DISTEFANO @neponset.org. We encourage everybody to take a look at the site
At
and
least, yes.
see what's out there.
Thank you. Thanks. Anything else other than what's on the future horizon? Anybody get out and about, or, okay?
Lousy weather.
Well, see what,
I was up and about in Burlington, Vermont, and it was very nice.
That's a
Ooh,
good-
that's
that's a
not
good
too hard to
spot.
take.
We will talk, Ernie's not with us tonight, but we will, down below a little bit, we'll talk about our trail markers, but we do have a number of things. We knew the spring would be exciting / busy / most of our discussion, as I mentioned, will be around this future events. We did mention at our last meeting the possibility of taking advantage of the full moon coming up on March 9th, I think. is-
7th we have here.
Yeah.
Oh, the moon is, full moon is on the 9th, yeah.
Yep, so we said we would shoot to have our next community walk on March 7th, which is a Saturday. We did talk about having it, that's why I wanted to try to work out some logistics tonight, but we did talk about going to the top of the landfill,
That'd be beautiful.
take advantage of the full moon and see what it looks like up there in the evening. So I think it's knowing what we know about that property and just from a logistics standpoint, I think we didn't have a start time. Certainly throw out some ideas, but we talked about meeting at the Willett, having people park at the Willett
Mhm.
and then walk over from there, the Willett School on George Willett Parkway. So anybody else have thoughts or want to try to fill in the blanks with any of this event?
If my
Tom?
guess is correct, the moonrise on a couple of days before the full moon should be around 5-ish. So, it's a reasonable time.
Would you go to the top of the landfill through the cemetery side, or try to come up from the back and hike? 'Cause I don't know how,
You'd have to come to the back, I
Treacherous, isn't
think,
it?
yeah.
well,
Well, you'd
Tough
you'd
step
want to
over there.
bring a headlamp or
Maybe they
a
don't
flashlight. so-
Yeah, that's what we had talked about safety.
Oh, your phone?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, your
we-
phone, yeah.
Yeah.
We would try to come up,
far.
we could try to get in touch with the DPW and ask them to leave the gate open at the landfill. You're right about the access and climbing to the top.
Yeah.
That road is slightly, I'll call it a road to the top of the hill, is slightly gravel paved, but it's not all that forgiving. It's certainly better than the back side of the hill. That's a good point. We could try to see if we could build an option A and an option B. I think revolving around the trail aspect of this, it would give people a good indication of what the trail looks like at night.
Yeah, I mean, it's a trail walk, so like,
There are streetlights on the.
yeah. I mean, it's kinda nice to
Well,
be able to walk rather than just park the car and go right up there.
Yep.
Even though I agree,
Yeah.
it's a mess there,
Yep.
you know?
So obviously with the weather and the incline, it'll be
Mhm.
kind of challenging.
Were we hoping for owls? Was this the owl prowl that we had discussed?
Well, we're hoping for
We'll
anything.
hope.
Owls would be good.
We've been on so many owl prowls where we've never seen any owls. So it'll just be more of that, I guess.
Hope not, but, yeah, like a whale watch.
Yeah.
So if the moon rises 5 to 5:30-ish,
Yeah, some place around there. yeah.
so we could start, we'd make it fairly short, we'd do it, go up for an hour, have a short window,
Yeah.
maybe start at 6:30 and end at 7:30?
Well,
Maybe.
would you want to see the moon rise, though? So if you start at 4:30 or something?
Sure, could do that. As everyone reaches for their phone to see what Marguerite's on top of that.
Somewhere there's daylight savings time in there too.
Yeah,
Sunday.
next
It's
day.
the next
Next
Sunday.
day.
Yeah.
see, good planning. And I think Fran's in charge of the weather, so that
I think that's good.
likewise.
What time is moonrise on March 7th?
Siri has joined the meeting.
Give me the forecast. I don't want the weather forecast. For goodness sake.
Okay, so is that generally, we want to be there for the moonrise? That makes sense?
To make it,
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the, I saw a beautiful one in Burlington this last
Oh,
weekend.
this weekend
Nice.
was
That was
gorgeous.
a big moon. It was like
Oh,
20
wow.
inches of snow on the ground. It was
Ah,
beautiful.
Hey, Jerry.
Hey,
No?
Jerry.
Half time.
Yeah,
Half time.
I watched it. I watched it.
okay.
Oh,
So maybe we say,
Pull up a chair.
Jerry.
What? That's a chip.
yeah, who wants to make an offer here? Anybody?
To what?
What time do you want to start? Do it for an hour and a half, maybe?
Yeah. And we kind of direct them, the group.
I think we could probably pull together a couple of telescopes or something
I
like that.
have one.
A couple of cameras on tripods or whatever it takes. Could probably try to set those up. You have
I don't have a tripod,
okay,
but I do have a telescope.
okay,
I have a tripod. I'd be very happy to lend it to you.
okay. So,
We should finalize it by the next meeting
March
anyway.
7th,
yeah.
full
Yeah.
moon walk,
Oh, yeah.
So we're doing 5
and
o'clock?
they're trying to
Terry's gonna
decide
do
what
the
time.
moonwalk too when he gets to
Yeah,
the
I'm
top.
ready. I'm
He's got his
practicing.
Michael Jackson.
okay. So we're talking about a full moon walk on Saturday, March 7th.
Mhm.
We'll finalize the details. We're gonna meet again on February 25th as a committee. So we'll dot the i's and cross the t's and fill in the blanks by then. We know we're gonna park at the Willett. We know, it sounds like we wanna be there for the moonrise, which, say it's somewhere around 5 or 5:30. Siri,
4:30.
4:30, okay? I stand corrected.
Would we try to do coffee or anything like that?
We could have,
Cocoa?
sure, we could try to do it's a Saturday night in March, sure.
Yeah.
Could try to find a sponsor and have something either at the top of the hill or at the bottom of the hill.
Better have 'em open the
Illumination
gate.
Coming back down.
I'm sorry?
Any illumination provided for the way back down? I'm sorry, I just got.
Yeah, no, that's right. We could see what we can,
You know those,
Two.
those lamp things you stick in
Yeah.
your yard, just put a few of them down
Yeah.
there, so they just, because you're not gonna be able to see a thing on the way down.
Although you have the streetlights on the trail.
plus it'll be a full moon.
Street lights on the trail,
Yeah.
at the top of the.
No, not at the top of the landfill.
On the trail part.
Well, I mean,
The trail
the
going back
lights
to
are
the
pretty
Willett.
far between, so there's gonna be
Yes,
some
yeah.
dark patches.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if the moon
But
is.
that's a good idea
It's
to
not
have
gonna
it
be that
out
dark.
up to the top.
Yeah.
They also mentioned the possibility of unlocking the landfill gate and, letting people go in there who might want to go, but who couldn't handle the trail from the Willett.
Yep.
So something to think about.
Okay. Jerry?
So just in passing, talking to people about, you see people and say, hey, we watch you on the Trails Committee and we're talking about the trails. And so they asked about the walk. I started talking about we're gonna be doing, the full moon walk, and that is, drummed up a lot of interest. I think, well,
Yep.
yeah, so I kind of like that idea.
Great,
And
great.
my wife wants to go.
There you go.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Bring our couple
She's always
scores.
welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great.
Pass out those glow things you put,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh,
sticks,
yeah,
you
yeah,
break
yeah,
it
yeah.
and wear them on your neck so you don't hit
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
So we have
We could turn this into an event.
Yeah, but there's
My wife uses them for the
Those
tour
solar
guides.
lights.
lawn lights that you have, you know.
Yeah,
I have some.
Okay, so let's try to, come up with a
Plan.
firm game plan on February 25th. I will get in touch with the DPW and see if we can work some magic there as Plan B. And then everybody, between now and then, our homework is to go out at night and get our eyes acclimated to the evening, lack of evening light. Second item on our future event, Ellie, you want to talk about the meditation walk?
yes. That will be, we're planning on April 18th, a Saturday, at 1. And it's going to be at Endine Park. We're thinking it will last about an hour. And I'm thinking of maybe 4 parts as I'm kind of brainstorming about it. One part would be to have people do an exercise to get grounded before we go. It's a way of feeling positive energy and kind of moving out any negative energy. And also, any of these things people can just not do, but it's an activity that makes people feel good. And then the second part would be a guided meditation, walking through parts of the woods. We would likely be in what's called social silence, so people won't be talking to each other a lot, just so people can really be, it's something about being in a group that adds to the positive connection. And the silence helps people experience nature themselves. So that would be the goal. So guided meditation, and then a part where, there's a part at Endine where you walk along and there are more bigger trees. And so I was thinking for that part, we could just have a time of reflection and notice the effects of nature on ourselves. What's speaking to us that day? What are we noticing? What's coming up for us? So just a time of reflection. And then the last thing would be a mindfulness exercise where we wish ourselves good things. It's called metta. We wish good things for other people. So those are the things I'm thinking.
How many people would be the most you want?
About 15, I was thinking.
Okay.
How does that sound?
I don't know, I've never gone on a meditation walk, but if you have too many.
Yeah, me either.
Oh.
So we're making this up. I've taught meditation, I've taught mindfulness. When my kids were little, I was an environmental psychologist at Hale Reservation, and I take groups of little kids on adventures through the woods. So I'm used to that kind of thing. So, I'll just be applying new knowledge
Yep.
to this situation. So it'll be an adventure.
And what time again?
1 o'clock.
Okay. And,
And I was
Okay.
gonna say, so we're thinking adults, just because if we're trying to be present, be mindful, as fun as kids are, they make it harder for their
Yeah.
parents to really focus on themselves. And same with dogs, we will probably run into people who have dogs walking, so if, our walkers have dogs, maybe the dogs would be interacting and that would be distracting. So we'll just keep it with adults. And part of mindfulness is being able to refocus your attention on your own experience with distraction. So there are trains that go by there, so who knows what kind of things we'll run into. But I think it'll be really nice. I mean, it was your idea, and I just think it's a terrific idea, and I'm excited about it. There are some practical things to figure out, like publicity, like signing up, and a date where we could maybe have a trial run ourselves. So,
good, thank you. Maybe that could be, if this is April 18th, maybe we can have a group walk instead of a group trail walk. We'll have a group meta session.
Okay.
right, just to practice.
To practice it.
Yeah.
And the weekend that I could do that would be March 28th.
Okay.
I don't know how that sounds,
Okay. All right,
or rain date the 29th.
great, that's exciting,
And
thank
then we
you.
talk more about publicity or sign-ups out at some future point, or,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, great. Do you, we wouldn't want to kind of inundate this, but would you see if you've got 15 other people, would you see the need to have other of us either there or helping or coordinating, or is it better to leave it as fluid as possible? Like, do you need help in any way?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
You're leading the session.
Yes. Mhm.
Is there a need for any of us from
Oh, to be there.
to be there?
Oh, I
Yes.
thought you were saying, would we want to take on maybe like 45 people and each one of us would lead a 15-member group?
We did-
Well, we have to be
Most-
qualified.
Yeah, I'd say I'm not
Most of us
going.
would end up at
Yeah.
Castle Island.
Ernie couldn't be quiet.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Well, I
That's
think
such a
it's,
nice
All right.
idea, I like that. Yeah, so
Well,
we could
something-
play around with that, that'd be great.
Okay,
with something like that, I find it's useful to have somebody designated as the tail end.
Yes, that's true.
So
Yeah,
nobody gets off on,
yeah,
Who knows what?
Communicating,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I like that idea, Joe, that's great.
Bounce
okay,
off.
great. All right, more to follow that. Good. Lee, you want to talk about Norwood 101?
Norwood 101 is a program at the Norwood Library. This year it's on Monday, April 13th. And a couple of our committee members have volunteered to assist me in doing that event. It'll be simply a table for information for people who want to know more about the groups that are represented at Norwood 101. It's an evening designed for people who are recently moved into Norwood, or people who are not familiar with the different groups involved in the community, but it's open to everybody. And that is at the library, like I said, Monday, April 13th. It starts at 6 p.m. I'd asked for help with me from 5 on to 8. It's over at 8. Library obviously closes by 9, so. It is very well attended. Usually it's elbow to elbow people there, so at least for a good part of that time. So that's all I know. I don't have any more updates from the library specifically, so.
Do you know how much space you have?
A
On the
table.
table?
It's a
On
booth.
the whole table?
Just
Okay.
a
It'll be a table in the reading room, and they'll set it up. All the government, local government groups are there, the police, the fire, the rec department.
Concom.
I just didn't know how much space you had for, put out brochures or.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of space for that. I mean, that's basically what we'll have available for them.
That's how Nowadays got started.
Yeah,
That's the same reason.
Oh,
yeah. So, the rec department will be there too, no doubt. Health department.
And would we need, among other things, the question about maps? Is that, excuse me, is that something we would want to go to the printer for in advance?
Yeah, I think we would, because I'll ask Patty how many people that will go through that, so I can get an idea of how many sets of maps.
It was a
Good
lot
idea.
of people.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably several hundred easily. Yeah.
Plus everybody that's manning the booths kind of meander around to see the other
Yeah,
booths too.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised there's that many, like 101, getting information about that. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a
no,
great
it's,
event.
any opportunity we have to keep feeding information to people who are interested in it is good, I think.
Okay, great, thank you. Norwood Earth Day, John could not join us tonight, John Apria. But that weekend, it's, Norwood is celebrating Earth Day on Sunday, April 26th. So John had presented last time that it'll be consistent with last year and previous years where the first half of the event will be at different sites across town, mostly some of the elementary schools. They have cleanups and booths and fun stuff for the first part of the program. Last year, they asked the Trails Committee to participate, and we hosted two sites,
sites,
the Hawes Pool, and Hawes Pond area, and Tennessee.
Tennessee.
So we basically host a cleanup at each of those last year. So we would want to try to brainstorm whether or not we want to do those same sites, what we want to do, first of all, if we want to do those same sites or do two other ones, or to what extent we want to participate. And then the second half of the day, the second half of the event is a booth and the Common, a booth on the Common that would be, everybody who participates and the community would be able to come back and see various, mostly nonprofits and Earth Day centric booths and groups, etc. So, anybody comment on that Earth Day, that part of Earth Day? Because Vic, you managed the Hennessy last year, and Jerry did Haas. Okay. So I think that went well. I'm sure we learned a lot in what to do and what not to do and what to bring and all that stuff last year. So maybe I'll leave it up to the body if we want to do two other places, or what.
Because Hennessy looked pretty good. I was there last week.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, nothing, I didn't see anything additional anyway.
Yes, I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised.
It's the glass there that drives
The
me
glass,
crazy.
yeah, I know.
But
They
I'm not
smashed
sure I
it
want-
off the rock.
People
No,
picking
probably
up
not. I don't
glass.
think so.
Yeah.
The
It
Haas
just-
is such a busy area that it generates a lot of debris over the year.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it probably, we always made that one of our focus points, because it just made sense to get a jump on it.
Yeah,
Okay, all right. So I'll leave that, the logistics and where we're gonna have it. It would be good, since this is April 26th, it would be good if we had the beginnings of a game plan by March 1st. We could circle back to Progress Norwood, asked us to give them some feedback, so maybe on our February 25th meeting, we can flesh that out a little bit more. One possibility, depending on the progress, but one area that might need definitely needs a cleanup, but it depends on the condition of the acquisition, is the Saint Street lots down at the end of the Saint Streets. But just, I'll throw that out there, but nothing, just kind of food for thought for next time, so.
You know, one of the things at Hawes is the goose dropping. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't know when
We have
do
special gloves. to
Tiptoe
go.
around it, huh?
Yep. Yep.
Rather, it's a-
Is that your
You can bring
problem,
You can bring a dog,
huh?
or you can get a beam, a light beam, and you find the gander that's in charge, and you put the light beam on that, and after 2 or 3 times, he decides I'm not coming back.
Oh,
So it's non-invasive, it doesn't hurt him, it just doesn't feel comfortable with it, so. I tried it and it seemed to work.
oh.
The day before, that whole weekend is kind of Earth Day. I think Earth Day is the 22nd. I think we
Yeah.
looked at it before. So I did talk to Jerry Hopcroft, who's active in the Neponset River Watershed Association. Jerry lives in town here, and I don't know if he has an official title with NEPRA,
is he the liaison?
town liaison, a town coordinator, or whatever. They may or may not host, as they did last year. They had a cleanup, likewise at Haas on the 25th, that Saturday, the day before. So Jerry's gonna kind of self-nominate Norwood to host another event, so we should know that within a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
So there could be an opportunity both Saturday and Sunday, but I think the more Norwood focused event will be that Sunday, the 26th. So, next meeting, John will be here, and John will give us any further details on that day. So, Um, Next item, trail markers. Do you want to, can you talk to that a bit? Trail marker, our walk to Adams.
Oh, so, right, I forgot all about that. Was this Saturday after our last meeting, I believe. So a couple of Saturdays ago, Joe and myself and Ernie met with Roy Nopel, who's on the Friends of the Adams Farm Committee. And so it was about an hour and 15, something like that. We walked basically the main loop and saw the kiosks that were put up by the Boy Scouts on for that Eagle project there. There were 3 of them in that system. They're all identical. And we took pictures. I think we also took some measurements. I saw something today come by, but I didn't have a chance to read that, so you might know a little bit more about that. So we have, we got some good information on sort of what they had there, and we'll see what we can come up with for design for our specific uses, I guess.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thanks. So one of the priorities, we have a lot of great ideas. We have a ton of things that we want to, solve, introduce, or create all at the same time, all like tomorrow, right? But one of the priorities that we want to get rolling on, and we've been talking about this for a long time, is trail markers, kiosks, intersection numbering, some kind of system for intersections. So in this walk, Roy Nopel, who was one of the volunteers who built the kiosks at Adams Farm to begin with, I think he helped out the Scouts, didn't he?
Those were the back ones, not the main one.
Okay, yep.
That was there before he started.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The main one, the main kiosk is very, very, very large and much more than what we would need.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
but there's some features on that are nice too.
So our game plan is we want to try to finalize our to-dos list, and we actually want to place a purchase order through the town to buy materials for us to kick this off. Ernie being the incredibly handy person who just happens to work at a lumberyard and a home center, has volunteered to take this on to kind of coordinate this. So we're talking about the kiosk, all the wood materials, etc. So we'd like to put a purchase order and get delivery of this material hopefully by the end of February, the beginning of March. The whole idea of an indoor work party is we'd try to find a garage somewhere, either the DPW or Jerry has volunteered, thank you, to host a work party and just basically bang out some of these kiosks and some signage, try to get a game plan on, numbering system, and we'd probably try to do it we would definitely do it site specific. Lee, Ernie, and I and Roy took that walk, and we actually, in addition to taking a number of measurements, we actually went through, this is definitely in draft form, but if you could just pass those around. So basically, we took the 5 maps, maps that we have prepared, and we went through and we just kind of ballparked and said, if we had a magic wand, and if I didn't kill enough trees to be able to do this, but if you turn the page, we went to each one of the locations on the map and said, this would be a logical place for a kiosk. And we've got a small and a large kiosk. If you basically think of the trailhead, that's a trail, nothing magic. It's a trailhead kiosk, so it's a little more extensive and bigger. Some of the kiosks we saw at Adams, they were more like mid-path kiosks. It's basically, in case you're lost, here's where you are on the map. So it's a touch with the mothership, but it's somewhere in the body, somewhere along the trail, but not at the head end, not at the trailhead. And what else did we have on there? We tried to ballpark theoretically a place for a bench, you know, some view, or like an intersection where if somebody needed to take a breather, there'd be a bench available to them. And then, if any one of these, we use the same, there's a legend
Sure.
across the bottom of the map. You've got some spots along the way, the pound sign just represents a number, like an intersection number. So you can kind of see the strategy there, but on the front page, there's basically a summary of what we think we might run into, or what we, you know, ultimately, we probably wouldn't do all these at the same time. We might pick one site and just
A lot.
have a little, have a little beta test, take it for a test drive and see how it works. We want to try to, with all things, we want to try to focus on the ending, so it might make sense just for us to
Start there.
start there.
Section
and
ends.
just
Yeah.
start-
Yeah, you get a lot of feedback because people
Yeah,
will be using it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
start to finish, and but ultimately, you can see that, you know, just on these 5 locations, you know, we've got some pretty significant, you know, a significant wish list of signage and kiosks and numbers and et cetera. So we're starting from 0. So, you know, 1 is bigger than 0, so, you know, but ultimately, that's the kind
Well,
of.
thanks for all the work you put in.
Yeah,
that's
great.
fantastic.
Terrific.
It is good to get this part of this off the ground.
Yeah.
A lot of the things we do are definitely longer term, but if you think of the basics, you know, we've got a map, we've got great maps, we wanna be able to take advantage of those. We've got people out on these locations every day, so we wanna give them some more tools to work with, so. So that's kinda where we are, but we definitely wanna get that rocking and rolling before the weather, not that the weather's bad, but before the spring season, after mud season. Use Vic's example of Burlington, Vermont. Burlington especially, but Vermont has mud season, which is that period of time.
Worst time.
Yeah, everybody walks around with their hunter boots on and their LL Bean or whatever.
Bean
but-
boots.
Bean boots. So we definitely, by April, you know, we would want to be able to have these things in place. And, you know, with the Endine especially, we work with the Conservation Commission, obviously, to get their blessings and make sure that the materials we use, we haven't spec'd out types of materials, but these are all materials, that's why we went to Adams Farm, is to, you know, we're not recreating the wheel. We want to respect the owners, respect the property, and kind of follow along what somebody else has done, so.
Now, one of the things in this that would be helpful to decide early on is the design of the markers that we're going to put up. We've got 31 markers indicated here. I have a feeling that the closer we can make ours to, say, the markers used on the Walpole trails, the more we can promote an interaction between the two, or a connection between the
Yeah,
two.
that's a
Good
good point, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it should be easy because we both have a boot on our signage. They accused us of stealing theirs and we accused them of stealing ours. Unity, we're all on the same page. But no, that's a good point. I think they have,
They have the right boot print? We have the
yeah,
left.
maybe. Lefty loosey.
Uh,
But I think they do have just a simple intersection numbering sequence. There's no signage there. No logo or anything.
I don't know if I have a photo. I might have a photo of it.
So, but yeah, that's a good point, Mary. So that's kind of the whole idea of the indoor work party, is try to get that in
Good.
place and show some, not that we're not showing progress, but in, you know, we're making progress in so many ways. That would be a good way for us to be visible to the
Yeah.
end users of the trails. So, what else we got on the list? Mass Trails grant, just briefly, Mass Trails opens a window every year. They have a grant program. The window opens and the deadline is February 1st, so it's already gone. Pat DeShane, Paul Halkiotis, and I put together a grant application with a whole number of attachments and submittals. We submitted it last week, or about 2 weeks ago, on time. And the purpose of the grant was to request the state to pay for the design work for the Saint Street lot trails. not only to do the design work of the trails and give us back a proposal. We have a third-party vendor who had already given us a quote, but we went back to the state and said, how would you guys like to pony up and pay for it? And so we're hopeful within a month or so we'll get some kind of feedback from them, so.
Good.
It's about a $38,000 grant application. The money had already been requested and approved by town meeting in the fall, not only for the purchase of the lot, but also for this design work. So it's not pure money, it's just if the state looks favorably on our application and awards it to us, then we basically just would not have to use CPA money. Say, town meeting voted to use community preservation money for that purpose.
On that point, Joe, is one of the things that they do require is that the town appropriate the money, or at least set the money aside before they will approve it. So with the fact that we have the CPA money to work with, that was one of the, selling points. Any application we put forward, we have the ability to put some seed money there and then apply for the grant. Otherwise, you could not even apply for the grant.
Right, yep, good point. This was advertised as a 20% match, so to your point, they would only supply 20% if we were supplying the 80%. And that the town's portion could be in either funding, it could be alternate funding from somebody else if we had another rich uncle or somebody donated. It could also come in the form of volunteer hours, the value of volunteer hours. So, good point, Jerry. It's not all state money, it's one big happy family Vic.
Now, if we did get that grant and there's still that money in the kitty, could it be transferred to, like, surveying the University Ave area?
So every time anybody, so our own town community preservation committee has a window that's open in the fall. We have the month of October and the beginning of November. So during that window, anybody can submit a grant. It's essentially the same thing, a grant application. So that grant application was for the purchase of the Saint Street lots and this design work. So if the Trails Committee or the Planning Department or some other entity wanted to come back in some future window period and submit another grant application to either the town or the state, or both, then that would certainly be feasible and acceptable use of the money as well.
But if the money was already there,
Once it's approved for a specific purpose, it can only be used for that purpose.
Okay.
So it doesn't go back into a reserve kitty, it goes all the way back to start, it goes back into the CPA reserve.
start all over.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, and but good try, good question.
You
But
never know.
But it's a good learning experience as well, that if this one gets off the ground, and, it's great if we can, once we get some momentum, if we can look for these opportunities for grants, either formal, like through the state, or, the trustees or NEPRA, they don't have money to grant per se. There are other organizations that do have money that's available, so. I know that Concom has gotten grant money from state, and various MAPC, I think, has gotten money, so.
In the process of our application for future grants, they'd like to see the money that they approved went into a particular project. So that's part of your grant application, you show, this is what we did with your money, bang. And the following year, when you do the next one, this is what we did with your money last year and the year before. They like to see that.
Sure. Yeah. It's good. So we'll know at some point, and hopefully in the next month. Anybody, so it's busy, we are busy.
Oh my gosh.
I'll talk, there's a couple of other items down below, but anything else, anything I neglected to put on the calendar?
I think it's great, but I'm curious, we have also under development at the bottom, the Ryan Larson Eagle project on kiosks. How are we tying that in, or are we tying that in with the kiosks and trail markers that we set up for the April work party.
Yep.
Or March work party. I mean, he's doing some work on it, so it'd be really nice if we could leverage that and build it into our efforts.
Yep, yep. So Ryan came to us, that was at least a year and a half ago? It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I think he may have gone elsewhere
And done
and
something
done
else.
something else.
Okay, it'd be worthwhile checking to say,
When we coordinate our date and we have a firm date as far as the actual work is concerned, we would reach out to the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Cub Scouts, the
Yep.
Scouts, or basically just, we had a couple of people at the library presentation last week who said, let us know if you need a hand doing anything, so we would certainly put out the notice to the community looking for assistance.
Does the DPW have a hole digger?
They-
Mechanized hole digger, oh, the light department?
They both would have an auger.
Yeah, like for a pole?
Yeah.
Yeah, they got it.
Yeah.
I have an old-fashioned postal digger if you
Yeah.
really want.
Light department has them too. so-
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
not the
But that'd be a
old-fashioned.
good
At
option
the
to
playgrounds, let me tell you.
Yeah.
use them to help.
So that's, let me just jump down to any other items to discuss in future meetings. Because there's something else there, we do, I was contacted, I sent an email to Lee and Marguerite today, but Pat Green, who joined us a couple of meetings, 2 months ago maybe, from the Women's
Community Committee.
Their committee board of trustees has authorized some level of participation, meaning they're gonna fund something. We're working out the logistics. Marguerite had brought up the idea of potentially looking at trail benches. That's one possibility. The other thing is ask the WCC to help us with some of the print costs of printing some more of the brochures. We don't know, she didn't commit as far as a dollar amount, but it could, anything's bigger than zero. So we appreciate their participation, and we'll try to formalize that a little bit more, to try to give them some ideas. I think if we gave them 3 or 4 ideas and, let them kind of figure out to what extent they want to buddy up, then we could definitely take advantage of that. The other thing, sorry.
I also, I did talk to Pat shortly after that meeting, she was here, and they have offered, I don't know if they've done it yet, as a point of distribution, our maps at the thrift store too, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah,
So, because, that's really close to Andean, that would probably be, something that we can source, at least the Andean map,
Sand streets.
and the Saint Streets too, when we make that map.
When you develop the trails,
Right,
Fran,
that's a little bit
when you clean up
farther
the
out.
lot.
Yeah. So, but yeah, she offered that they could be a point of distribution for the
Okay,
maps
great.
too, so.
Great, okay.
at least 2 people in the past month have come up to me and said, I'd really like to do the trails, but I need to have someplace to sit partway along. And some of these people are younger than I am, which is kind of interesting. They have, but the need is there
For the benches.
for the bench. And it can be a very simple bench. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. But just to have someplace where they can sit and rest.
I mean, getting back to that, that one,
One.
thank you, sorry. Just going through the 5 maps, we
Yeah.
could easily, it says 7 benches, but, we could easily put 2 strategically placed ones at every location. I mean, there are a couple, like at the Ellis Pond Dam, there's one, there's just, you folks just had one installed at the Orchard. And there are, I think there's 1 or 2, even though one's fallen down, and I'd be the one who should test it, but there's one falling down at the Hawes Pond. But there's benches are definitely, if we want people to go, you're
Yeah.
right, to your point of making them comfortable with the outing, I
I
guess.
think that what we're trying to do, among other things besides marking the trails and, scouting them out, is letting people know about them and letting people know that they can do it even if they're not gung-ho hikers, even if they're limited mobility to some extent. And I think that's an important factor in selling it to the town, that we're maybe not completely ADA compliant, few places are, but at least we are making the effort to make it accessible to a lot of people.
Good, good point. The other thing on that section of the agenda I had passed out, I had asked Craig and Marguerite to kind of coordinate this and come up with some ideas, but, which we'll do offline, but I did pass out this double-sided two-pager here. We did get a positive response from the Ponset River Watershed. They, I don't know if it's Andres Ripley, I don't know if you know him.
Andres.
I can't remember, sorry.
Yep, that's right. So Andres Ripley is going to join us on February 25th. You can read the details. I am the Greenway and Natural Resource Specialist at NEPRA. Come to one of your meetings to discuss our mission, some of the projects we're working on, and potential for collaboration on projects with the Trails Committee. So he's excited to join us on the 25th, so just to put that on the calendar. Just to, if you can brainstorm, I think we've all introduced some of the magic that NEPRA works at these meetings, but it would be good. I've asked Craig and Marguerite to kind of put up a quick agenda. I think if he's here for a half an hour, 45 minutes, like what do we need to know? And
Okay,
what do
I'll
we,
try.
what do we in the committee need to know, and how can we help them? So maybe that's a two-way street there, but anything you can do would help.
Okay.
And I don't know if anybody, from a member's minute standpoint, Marguerite, anything you want to throw out there?
I don't think so. I think I'm
Okay,
done for the night.
okay, thank
Well, I
you.
get her minute too.
Yeah.
No, when I was doing Hennessy Field last week, and surprised how clean it was compared to last year, and they're respecting it, I think, a little bit more, other than the glass that's been there forever. Then I crossed Pleasant Street and was riding down there, and I noticed Meadowbrook right there, and the green area, 20 feet on either side.
Yep.
And it goes for a few blocks.
Yep.
I mean, could a trail be put there as part of the Hennessy Field?
Pretty
Thanks.
steep. I mean, I've eyed that too, but that's a pretty,
But it's,
Steep
on the
ditch
flat part,
well, we could take a look at it.
yeah. could be a
This is on the east side of Pleasant
When
Street?
you cross
Yeah.
Pleasant
Yeah.
Street,
Going towards Route
heading
1.
toward Route 1.
Yeah, between
The
Pleasant and Route
Meadowbrook
1.
comes out,
Yeah,
is uncovered there, and goes all the way to Route 1 almost.
Yeah,
And
right.
I never really
Pretty
noticed
brambly.
that before, but there's a few blocks of
Yep.
Yeah.
possible trails there.
Comes out
Pretty
at,
brambly down there.
Yeah,
There's a
it's-
brook that goes right in there.
Yeah, there's the
comes out
Meadowbrook.
at Monkey Sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes out
Oh.
there.
And then ultimately it dumps into
The Ponce River.
the Ponce
Yeah.
It
River.
goes under the
Yeah.
Ponza, but
Yeah.
it goes under Route 1.
Yeah, it
so-
goes under
Yeah.
Route 1. and-
Yeah, it's good. It's worth a shot.
My old stomping ground, so I know.
Okay, you're in charge.
That's those old beer cans down there.
Yeah,
Hey, Jerry was here. Okay.
And were we gonna do a walk? Is this before or after? How about the Saint Street for a walk?
Open for suggestion, sure.
A holiday, I'm sure.
that's Monday, isn't it?
That would be a quick walk, but we could do that
Yeah.
in conjunction with, zipping across the street or going behind the Bolsh or whoever. Stopping in a Percival or whatever we want to do, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Any,
be
is that,
around.
anybody around, is you up for that?
What day?
Monday?
What day?
Monday
Monday.
the 17th?
17th.
Is it 17th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of,
It's early.
This Monday
6
coming up.
days.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the
Yeah.
President's Day holiday.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That'd be a good way to go to that meeting.
So,
What time?
School will be closed.
school will be
Yeah.
closed, morning, 10,
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
10
sounds
o'clock?
okay.
okay.
meet where?
Oh, that's a good question.
You know what, let's meet we could meet at
Second Cup,
Cafe
Second
Fresh or Second Cup.
What do they call it now?
Yeah.
Brookside.
Side.
Yep,
Meet
Yeah.
at Brookside?
sure.
Or just park in the pool lot so we don't
Yeah.
take their spaces.
Yep,
Yeah.
yes.
So park at the,
The
Old
hospital.
school?
Pool lot,
Hospital.
Ospool.
yeah.
oh, at the hospital, okay.
And anybody else that wants to do it
Yep,
out there.
it's open to the public, so we're talking Monday, February 17th at 10 a.m. And
Good,
we're gonna meet at the Ospool. Good.
excellent.
Ellie, you got anything you want?
No,
Okay,
great to be here. Thanks for all you're doing
thanks for
in
coming.
so many ways.
Jerry,
No, I'm good.
Fran,
Good.
welcome back.
Thank you.
Steve?
It was wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Good, thanks.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Next time you have to talk more.
Like I said, I was here to listen tonight. Happy to talk more next time.
Yeah.
Okay, it would be good,
Thank you.
while Steve's here, you know, we do work, we don't know it, but when we're out on the Endine, we're on Conservation Commission property. And so many of the properties, we went out on New Year's Day and we were on Conservation Commission property.
I love that walk.
That was a good one. So there is definitely, you know, our committee and the Concom have a relationship, and I think we just need to kind of keep fostering it. We could complement each other. There's a lot of good stuff that we could do together. I think that would be good. One of our recent trail reports, Craig is great at filling out the trail reports. One of our other trail reports recently, thank you. One of our other recent ones cited a tree down at the Endine, right along the train track path, which soon will actually have a number so we can identify it. But I got almost immediate feedback from Ramonda that she got in touch with the DPW, and if that fallen tree, which was like perfectly fallen across the trail, you couldn't fell it any better. But if it's not already gone, it will be gone shortly, so thank you.
Good.
But that's the kind of thing we need to help each other out, and I would see us definitely doing that same thing on Germany Brook and with the DPW property and the light department property, and you know, that it can only be good for the users, for the end users, so.
Yeah, I would say that the sentiment that you've expressed, Joe, is a big part of my motivation for being here tonight. So yeah, thank you, well said.
Okay, good, thanks.
Should we have like after the winter, each one of us takes a different trail and make sure that, and reports whatever?
Fill out a trail report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't done that
Yeah,
too
we-
much lately.
Craig leads the league.
Right.
But yeah, that would be good. One of the reasons that the Trails Committee started, or probably the number one origin of the Trails Committee was the intent to create adopt a trail program. So, and that was the genesis for this whole thing, is we have these trails in town, people are on them all the time, they're not coordinated or formal in any way. But if one person goes out, you know, walking the dog or walking the kids, or the kids are walking them or whatever, and they see something that either could be improved or there's a hazard or whatever, then that feedback is the best way to make that property better. Right, so that's how this whole Trails Committee started, was with that adopt a trail concept. So if we could get that rocking and rolling, the sooner we can get it going, the sooner other people are gonna see that it's a good thing. And we actually had 2 people at last week's library say, why don't you guys have this program, and oh, by the way, I will do it if you get it going. So people are already there, they're already willing to help.
No.
And they're out there all the time, so. Jerry?
I'll just take back my minute.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I just, I guess, an update, the fact that there's a 150th committee starting now, and it's just having the the ground roots, and then we're gonna have a major meeting on the 23rd, I think, if anybody's interested. But it's something maybe we might wanna think about that might be worthwhile. The Trails Committee have some goal to have on the 100, which is 2 years away, but we still have, we have some time, but at least it's, it's coming, so that will be starting up pretty soon.
Okay.
I think it's at 2 o'clock
I
on
haven't got.
Sunday, and I don't remember where.
At the community
They're
room.
gonna be at the,
Community room, yeah.
the police department.
Police department,
Police
community
department.
room.
Too, yeah, but
On what date, Jerry?
it was Sunday the 23rd.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
2 o'clock is right.
Yep. I worked on the 100th and the 125th anniversary celebrations, and it took 2 years. It took 2 years of wrangling, frankly. But a lot of good ideas came out of it, and we had a good time.
Yeah, Ernie, Victor and I were having breakfast, and we brought one of the 100th anniversary book, and we're going through it, and we said, wait a minute. This is Marguerite.
With brown hair.
She was on the 50th one, too.
Oh, very
Didn't have that book.
Sorry,
Sometimes
Marguerite.
it feels like that, I'll
It's
tell
the
you.
chocolate gets me.
Yeah, here, have another one.
So it was nice, she had
But
a very.
how times have
historic-
changed, I remember ashtrays we had with the town seal, the
Yeah,
glass ashtray.
yeah.
I don't think we'd have it on this one.
No, no. But that's the kind of thing, people throw the ideas out there. We had a fireman's muster, it poured rain.
Yeah.
But it was the idea that somebody said, hey, this would be a good thing because the fire department played a big role in actually the celebration of the town. And so I think that this meeting, I have nothing to do with the meeting yet, but I'll be there, is to try to get these ideas out there and just let them flow. And then we can sort out what works and what doesn't work. And thank you for finding that article.
Of course, Marguerite was 2. when-
2, yeah. I was very precocious, too.
Yeah, good, good.
You didn't change much, I thought. You look good now, you look good
Take the glasses
then.
off, I look just like,
Yeah,
Vic,
no, you look
Vic,
very
nothing
good.
you say will be able to get
I'm
you
trying to
out of
get
that
it
hot
back.
water.
What is it, still in there?
Yeah. Keep trying though.
Foot and mouth.
nah.
Craig, members minute?
I've been reading a book called Death and Life of the Great Lakes.
What is it?
Death and Life of the Great Lakes.
The Great Lakes.
Yeah, I can't remember the name. Egan maybe is the author. It came out in 2017, kind of following this kind of report. The Great Lakes are under extreme pressures environmentally and have gone through cycles. You've probably heard of the zebra mussels. They hit the Great Lakes really hard, but there are other things too, and it's kind of sobering to read. And the book was, like I said, published only like 3 years ago, so I
Getting
found it a good read, but a little, makes me think.
Yeah.
What was the name of it again?
Death and Life of the Great Lakes.
Okay. I ask because I have friends who are nuns out in Detroit area, and
Yep.
they've been working on mitigating the pollution on the Lake Erie.
Yep, that comes, St. Clair River there
Yeah.
is a focus
I
in
went
that
out with
book.
them on a boat trip,
You know,
and it was very eye-opening.
you know.
Good, thanks. Lee?
I'm good, thank you.
Just happened to be walking, I don't know if you can you pick this up? Can you pick that up? I think we've seen this before, but I just want to call people's attention to it again. This is a map that was put out in conjunction between the Norwood Senior Center and the Public Health Department. The Public Health Department got work to get a grant from the state, but the state funded this program where the Senior Center put together it's a really good brochure. It's available at both the Senior Center and the Public Health Office in Town Hall. But there is a Senior Center Senior Center path that goes, you know, in the vicinity of Prospect Street and Manhattan Street, and it basically goes between the senior center and the high school. There are, I remember we talked about this at one point, but you see on the front page, there's a diamond, diamond logo. And those signs, it's really, you know, we all drive by them and it's really hard to even notice the signs. But it's just a reinforcement that these kind of programs they're active, they're in town. We're not the only, we're not the only show in town. But it, you know, along the lines of conservation and fostering open space, et cetera, and people getting out to enjoy. This program has been around for at least 5 to 7 years. We did send a Plan B option to Kerry at the senior center as far as a possible trail that goes not so, this is mostly or maybe entirely sidewalk walking. We did provide an alternate that goes back behind the senior center and behind Father Max, and it's a little more rough terrain. You know, it's a trail that basically follows the Father Max trail. But I thought this program was very well put together. It's been around, like I said, it's been around for a number of years, and I don't know what the usage is, but I think it just reinforces the fact that, you know, whether it's families, seniors, any, you know, you name it, people are looking for ways to get outdoors. So, just as a reminder that program is out there and it's available and it is marked. That might be something actually down the road, we might be able to help them out with additional signage or just to try to put this on, literally put this on the map. So figuratively and literally. We did, as I mentioned, February 25th, we've got a representative from NEPRA coming. I didn't put it on the calendar, but March, whatever our March date is,
The first week of the
March-
24th?
March 10th.
10th.
So tentatively, I mentioned Stuart, the birder.
Right, yeah.
The bird enthusiast is, we're trying to figure out if he's gonna come on the 10th or the 24th. But one of those 2 dates he will come and he'll be our guest speaker du jour. So, you know, we are trying to fill up the calendar and make sure that we've got a constant, you know, not inundating or overpowering, but we've got a steady flow of stuff going on, good stuff. It's
Good
all
job.
good.
Stuart Menage.
Menasian, yeah.
Indonesian, okay.
Minasian. So Stuart's excited. He does a lot of things with the Audubon, and he spent last summer basically on Duxbury Beach tracking the plovers and photographing the piping plovers on Duxbury Beach. So, anybody have anything else? Our next meeting is February 25th. Anything else?
Could you just clarify, what's the Monday walk? Where will the walk be? So meet at Hawes at 10, and how long, and where?
Might be an hour. It's a fairly small lot, but we're gonna walk basically from the Hawes parking area. We're gonna safely cross the street at a crosswalk. We'll go down St. Paul. St. Paul
okay.
Ave is the first street,
Okay.
this first of the Saint Streets. And at the end of St. Paul Avenue is the what's called the Saint Street lot.
Oh, okay.
The town, I don't think we've finished the acquisition yet, because there was some additional flagging and landscape, not landscape, but work, surveying work that had to happen on the property.
Like where the boundaries are?
Where the boundaries are, yep, that would be good to know.
On the end of the-
And it is bushwhacking, not
It-
trails, so.
It's definitely bushwhacking, so
Yeah.
dress accordingly.
Okay.
It's not likely to snow, but it's a great place to snowshoe. It's a tiny, tiny lot. It's not even as big as
6.5 acres.
Shattuck or, it's 6.5 acres.
Yeah.
It's not even as big as Shattuck or Hennessy,
No, it's a good acre short.
Okay.
But it's got a river.
but it's good, it borders both the Hawes Brook and the Neponset. It's a beautiful site waiting to happen,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of deer remnants there, there's a lot of scat, and, you know, they were here first, but, we don't wanna push them out in any way, but we wanna try to figure out a way to collaborate with the deer. But so basically, 10 o'clock meet, walk around, get a feel for the property and where it could go.
Are there wet areas that we would be encountering?
There's no wet areas unless you fall down the
The river.
river and, you know.
You get beyond the fence line of the. you get
It gets
to the
tight
ball
there.
fields. By the ball fields is wet behind the fence line.
Beyond the Elliott Field, right, by the, behind the balls, yep, yep. So it dress accordingly, if we finish up early, we might go back across the street to the ending, or whatever you wanna do.
Good.
But the main purpose is that, so it's open to the public if people wanna come join us at 10 o'clock. If they need any further information, our email address is trails@norwoodma.gov, TRAILS.
And that was February,
That's February
17th.
17th at 10 a.m. Cool. And then over to beyond that, you know, we're always looking for other places to walk.
Alrighty.
So, good. Without
Very good.
further, so February 25th is our next meeting, 7 o'clock. Without further ado, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion adjourned.
second.
Sure,
Second.
thank you, good, thank you. All those in favor? All those
Aye.
opposed?
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Wow.